And we are recording. Hi.
Okay.
We have never
Hi.
met, so now we're meeting. Um,
Right.
will you tell people who you are, the work you do, what you care about, what you don't care about?
Yes. My name is Rita. I recently founded a women's collective called Sacred Sisters, and it has grown in such a beautiful way that even I didn't expect. And I think when we create things in the world, it's like we're either creating from a space of like really creative passion and just like genuine, this is just needed and I just want this and desire this, or like from desperation and lack. Like I found myself kind of in both of those spaces. And Sacred Sisters is one of those things that I just really needed, and the world has really needed. And it's a collective of women that focus a lot on our own individual healing and also create a space for collective healing. We focus a lot on something that's referred to as the sister wound, which is just this wound of pain and trauma and judgment and shame and comparison that a lot of women carry. And especially with the beautiful new age of social media, it's just like this constant stimulation in our face of what others have that creates this feeling of what we are lacking. And so it's just like further perpetuated that distance between women and seeing each other as competition instead of as allies. And um, it's healed me, just as much as the women that are a part of it. I feel like I am constantly learning and evolving and looking into my own mirrors. And I think as someone who is, I do consider myself a leader and a healer. And I think it took me a while to take that ownership, but with that comes that sort of like forever student hat that you have to wear too. And so it's really deepened that for me. And it's really just like a group of really amazing women that want the best for themselves and for each other. And what more could you ask for than something like that that just makes people feel good and helps the collective? So yeah.
I have a lot of questions, but I got to start with how we always start. What is liberation to you?
Liberation is becoming aware of the wounds we have where we are not yet free to be our truest self. And so I think there's many ways that you can look at those wounds. And for me, the path of spirituality has taught me that there's breath work, there's yoga, there's mindfulness, there's plant medicine, there's all of these tools accessible to us that can help us mirror where we're caged, right? Or where we're locked and closed off. And the moment that liberation starts is when you realize that it's your choice, that you have the power, right? That like nothing outside of you, no one outside of you is really going to give that to you. Do you need the tools? Sure, of course, they're helpful, right? They like bring us back to center, and it's your responsibility to do that, right? And I think that is the challenging part, is a lot of times we go through life thinking that something else is going to liberate us. And to me, liberation is knowing that you have the power to give yourself the liberation that you're seeking.
Are you liberated?
Am I liberated? I I find for me it's been there's evolutions to it, I guess, would be what's coming to me when you ask me that. My first feeling is to say yes, I am. And there's always like, I'm still triggered, there's still wounds, there's still like shit that comes up and stuff that I see that I don't love in my own behaviors or in my own thoughts, right? And so I think I'm always wanting to be better and I'm always wanting to be freer, but I'm almost like, I need to sit with that. Am I liberated? Like, I mean, yes, it's part of my work, of course, is to like support others in doing that. I'm liberated in ways, and in other ways I see where I'm still kept a little small. I keep myself a little small. I think that's human nature too, right?
I'm inspired and like intrigued by your initial response was like, yeah, I want to say I am liberated because I I don't that would not be my initial response. Like someone's like, you liberated? I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
yeah,
Uh I got this knee injury going on and I feel so far from liberation. Like it's affecting me so
yeah,
much. My mentals, my spirit, my practice, my, just this like this thing,
yeah,
this story around it and like why and done the timing and so I feel so far from
yeah,
liberation. And when I imagine liberation, I'd be like, yeah, my knee is whatever. It is what it is. This is it.
mm, yeah,
Um, but I also know, and I guess the reason I like your answer is there isn't a Dharma like studio practitioner place in this world scripture that doesn't say if you've shown up, you're already there.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like if you've opened the book or you've
yep,
begun the journey or you're curious, you've already you've got it.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. It's the awareness, right? Like when I think back to when liberation was so far from me, I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't even know that I wasn't it, right? It's it was because I had no awareness of the concept at all. I had no awareness that I was at the time I was of the matrix, right? Like, I don't know how deep we want to go, but like
Hey, you know the
now it's
matrix.
like now I am in it, right? I'm partaking in it. I see it, I witness it, I know the systems, like I know the things that are constructs to, that are designed essentially to keep us small, right? Before I had no idea, and so it was like I love what you said because just that awareness, yeah, sometimes that really is all it takes is just the click of like, there's more here, there's a different way, there's something else, and like I said earlier, it's really up to us to determine what that looks like for ourselves.
This is a question that I think people will ask at the end of when they interview you, but I'm going to ask it now. So you help women heal, which is, I think, a version of liberation. Uh, to anyone listening right now who's like, okay, what's something I can do
What
to
does
heal?
that mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, if I'm to be fully transparent, right now I'm even redefining what exactly that means, right? Because I see the evolution within myself and how I need to be held in different ways in that. And I I I almost prefer the verbiage of I help women to just see themselves, right? To discover what is innately in them. I always say, like, a healer, a guide, a leader is not someone who's going to heal you. They are someone who's going to hold the mirror for you so you can see the power that's always been inside for you to heal yourself, right? So I'm not offering anything to anyone that they don't already hold or already have. We just need those mirrors. We need to see the example of what's possible. We need to see the tools that can help us get there. And so I consider myself a space holder, right? Like I just craft the space to hold women in their healing so that they can discover whatever is already within them. And that's, the path is different for everyone, right? And so as space holders, it's important to know how to craft that so that it lands for everyone in the room, and you can't always do that, right? That's just, like, that in itself is not possible, but you can do the best to be in integrity and to stand in your own awareness, your own healing, your own power, and like I said, just be the mirror for what is possible, right?
I say in my work a lot that my job, not my job, but what I want to do is create spaces of belonging
mm, mm,
because
I
I
love
don't
that.
think there is a person who isn't trying to belong or
Hmm.
know they belong, which is not inherent in us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Belong in our kinks, belong in our normalcy, belong in our like what we think is
Hmm.
weird, belong in our desires,
Yeah.
uh, and that we need more of these spaces that say we belong. Maybe transcend like a big jump, but not. I think like that's isn't that the science and behind sort of gang culture? It's a space of
Mm,
belonging. Like
right.
you give these young men and women a home.
Right.
family,
And what made
community.
me, yeah, exactly. And what came to me as you were speaking is how a lot of our ancestors lived, right? In tribe, in community, like no matter where you're from, you're indigenous to some group of people. And almost all of them had that mindset, that mentality, like you belong to the tribe, you contribute to the tribe in some form or another. And our society has like
Yeah.
completely lost
What
that. Like
tribe?
that's
Yeah. What tribe do we have to to
right.
benefit? Like
Yeah.
other than the tribe of self, which is
Yeah.
so, I think, depressing and like leads to a lot
Yeah.
of sadness. The tribe of self.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The tribe of self. Yeah.
it's rough. Like
Yeah.
it's rough to try and just make self better every day.
Mm-hmm.
What are
Mm-hmm.
you giving it towards? It's
Yeah.
it kind of hurts. Okay, so you said this thing like social media makes it hard for women to feel that
Yeah.
liberation, maybe that belonging,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yep.
that worth, maybe uh slash as a person who's spreading this, or not spreading but sharing these gifts, these communities, you sort of use social media. What's the balance there that you tell your community?
Yeah. I think that's something I'm navigating even still every day as social media is changing and we see just this constant flux of like trends. And I mean, something is in 1 minute and the next it's out, right? And so it's like I think social media is a really beautiful invitation for us to ask ourselves what we are standing true to, right? Like that age old quote, like if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, because you could fall into all of these trends all the time and it can be exhausting. I mean, I've done it myself, right? Like just seeing my own, when I first started my platform, I was doing all of these really like funny video, like I was using humor as a way to like get people in spirituality, and that really worked, and it worked for me too, because I think even I needed that at that time. But I recognized that it was trendy, right? It was what was like gonna get people excited about something, and it wasn't super true to me. Not to say I mean, I think I'm funny, but like goofy, and I love all that, but like it wasn't super true to like the message that I really want people to feel. And so it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge to see social media as a tool, because it is. I mean, the fact that we can access all this information and connect with people all over the globe, it's incredible, right? It truly is. And the speed at which it's evolving is a little scary sometimes. So it takes discernment. Anything in spirituality takes like discernment and self responsibility, right? It's like there's so much information out there. And if you don't have the wherewithal within yourself to stop and say, does this feel true for me? And I adopted this as my own, not because I saw someone else doing it and everyone else is doing it, but because there is truth in my bones that, yes, this could work for me. So I think that would be it, is just that moment of actually asking yourself the question instead of taking everything that you see or scroll to to be true.
What about you said it about like sort of your comedy, right?
Mhm.
um and this sort of trending nature of spirituality, which I was also going to be like, that's it though, right? Like we also do need to remember that if you take it too seriously, you've sort of
Of
lost your
course.
way.
Yep. Yep.
um just to sort of emphasize the comedic, I think.
Mhm.
I think it is important in a way that I often find myself, taking it too seriously. Not
Mhm.
just spirituality,
Mhm.
but life in general. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I lately, when I've been thinking about liberation, I've been thinking about joy.
Mm.
Um, so like Buddhism is a big part of my life, and I think suffering is really equated with Buddhism,
Right.
because life is suffering. It's this like tenet in in
Mhm.
the Dharma. Uh, and I think it's been overused. Like life is
Mm.
suffering. I mean, there's genocide going on. There's war, plenty of places. There's lack of clean water in in many fucking all the worlds. Like
Yeah.
there are problems, um, and yet I know that life is short. Um, how can we enjoy this
Mhm.
moment?
Mhm.
That's what I think is liberating for me. Like, and maybe I have
Yeah.
some story in my head that that's when I'll be liberated, is when I enjoy my bum knee, and I can, like,
Right.
I enjoy nothing to do,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah,
to
I love
share,
that.
nothing to
Mhm.
be.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is
Yeah.
your relationship to? So I have a friend who said, "Chris, you're an artist whether you share art or not."
Mm.
Like,
I love
or do
that.
you only think you're an artist if people see it?
Mm.
You know. And so my question to you, I'm not telling you to stop doing your work, but my question
Mhm.
to you is, are you are you this liberated being only if you bring women with you? You know?
Mm.
Um,
Mhm. Yeah. That's a really
yeah.
good question. What what is coming to me is, and I've noticed this more recently as I have really wanted to connect with my lineage and my ancestry. It was something that wasn't really like rooted in my upbringing necessarily, in in the ways that I've seen it in other people's lives. And so I've tried to really connect with it again and to come back to those roots, and to understand what it is that my ancestors did and how they lived. And so there's this piece of me that feels like this path, this walk was assigned to me, if you will, right? I was chosen to bring in this healing for my bloodline and for all that came before me, right? And so if I was doing that in a cocoon by myself and never shared it with anyone, I know that the work is still working. I know that the healing is still healing. So yes, absolutely. And I think that's a piece that becomes challenging for people because in our humanity we want to be seen, right? Like we want to be witnessed in our life and in our story and in our healing, like that. It's like this, yeah, it's just human nature, like see me, what, and so
I think that's
I
social
get
media. Like, I mean,
exactly,
I think it
exactly.
really feeds on this thing we're afraid to name, which is you want to be
Yeah,
seen.
yeah,
You want to be seen as a being of infinite worth. And then
yeah.
unfortunately, we don't see you as a being of infinite worth. We see you as a being of a certain amount of worth because
The amount of likes.
we literally give likes to it, like, and
Yeah,
followers. And this idea of, um, I've been just mulling on this idea for a while now, of the idea of just everyone having followers.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's a weird term. It's a term that we ascribed to the highest highest
yeah,
of beings, and
yeah.
for better and for worse. I mean, we
Mhm.
ascribed it to, Buddhas, and we ascribed it to Hitler's. Like,
Right,
both get
right,
followers.
right. That's
Um
so real.
uh and then what is it like when the average Joe has followers, and is this good or
Mhm.
bad? And uh
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying average Joes are, I'm just saying, like,
No, I understand the point fully. Yeah.
this term that we've given to people, and
Mhm.
that worth dependent on it.
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah.
it's
It's a challenge. It's such a challenge, and it's I have had to witness myself in that world and really ask myself a lot of hard questions, right? Like, am I posting this? What is the purpose of this post? Like, am I sharing it because why? What is the why? And depending upon my state of being in the moment, the answer could be different, right? Like, maybe I am seeking, maybe I am reaching, maybe there's a validation that I need. And I think we have to be careful too, because sometimes the path of spirituality can bring us into that like superiority complex a little bit of the basic way of being human becomes beneath us, and that's we have to be mindful of it. We just have to, right? Because we are a human being having a spiritual experience, and we're a spiritual being having a human experience. It's both happening at the same time, and one can't exist without the other, right? And so there has to be this like grace for ourselves, and the hyper awareness of it at the same time,
What takes place at your beautiful gatherings with your community?
Yeah. So last year we hosted, I believe, between 6 and 7 in-person retreats. And so they are designed to bring you on an individual healing journey and a collective one. So we bring in all these different modalities. I mean, I am surrounded by an incredible community of women that do all sorts of different amazing things. And so the thought was really to bring them all together to show, like I said earlier, the array of different modalities that one can use to better understand themselves. And so whether that's yoga, breath work, mindfulness, cacao, creativity, dance, I mean, all of these things that are accessible to us and free, right? That we can just achieve on our own, even not in a setting like this, and create this beautiful journey to take someone on while simultaneously holding each other in that experience, right? So the power of just doing it together and showing that you can heal in safe spaces and that you can be held in your story and with your pain, and that that's not going to define you, right? That doesn't have to be the only thing that you live by. That's not your identity. So it started out, I was coming out of a somewhat situationship relationship that really forced me to look at myself.
Powerful
And
time when you're
oh
coming out of
yeah,
something. The best.
those are fun. Yeah.
Transition
And
is when all the change happens.
exactly, that death and rebirth, right? And so as that piece of me was being shown to me so clearly of like what I needed to look at and how I needed to really step further into my own liberation, this was birthed from that. And so it just was like, why do women experience everything alone? Like, why, I mean, humans really, like we spoke to it, the tribe of self, right? So like, why is it that we feel the need to go through everything alone? And when did that become the norm, and how can we rewrite that? I want to be, I desire to be a thought leader, a disruptor, right? I want things that are not normal. I mean, anytime any of a lot, we've gotten a lot, like so many comments on some of our reels, like, this is a cult. This is for sure a cult. This is giving cult, right? And I get it, because it looks like something that is uncomfortable to see. It's uncomfortable to see women celebrating each other and dancing and in their joy and not pitting each other against each other and not comparing themselves to each other, right? It's not normal. We don't, I mean, now I think we're seeing it more, but it's disruptive to the nervous system. And I welcome that.
I'm not like pro cult here, but I am understanding that anyone who joins a cult, it's because they feel like they belong.
Right.
So they found a home. Now the intentions of that home I can't speak to.
Right.
Like some better, some worse.
Right. Right.
That is the same for church, for so many gathering points. I can't speak to the intention of the people who run and create these gathering points, but I know that people have always wanted to belong in a place.
Yeah.
They have always wanted their tribe. To really play devil's advocate and make it dark, I think that is what you're seeing in this country around politics and around racism. And you see an organization like Proud Boys or any neo-Nazi sort of, wow, they belong too.
Right.
Like, with each
Right.
other, and they can galvanize around their hate in really profound ways. I think we're seeing that. And if you haven't seen it, like, see how powerful it is to build community and shared ethics and shared values, whether those ethics and values are right, wrong, good for the benefit of others.
Yeah, exactly.
When you create that space, incredible things can happen, for better or for worse. I always talk about it, but there's a great book, Rebellion of the Masses.
Mm.
by a writer named Garcia. Uh, uh, three words. He's gonna come to me. Uh, it's gonna come to me. But Rebellion of the Masses was written in the 20s, and it was a Spanish dude, and he kind of prophesized the internet, and
Mm.
he said there's two types of people. There are minority and there are masses. This has nothing to do with race or ethnicity. Minority is like, you're an opera singer, not everyone and their mother can do that.
Mhm.
You're a heart surgeon, not everyone can do that. It's pretty like unique. It's pretty
Right.
neat.
Yeah.
And then masses are like just kind of everybody else. Like, and he said one day a microphone will come along that will allow masses to think they are minority.
Ooh.
It will allow the
Mm.
masses to think they have a special thing. And they will
Mm.
galvanize people with their microphone around the things they hate, not the things they love, because the
Wow.
power of hate is a much easier galvanizing force.
Yeah.
It's a trippy
Ooh.
book. It's trippy.
Yeah. That's heavy.
It's
And
heavy. It's heavy.
um he was clearly some form of a prophet. So I
You
feel
know.
like yeah.
And so if people see your thing and they say like it's a cult, it's also because we do not have a comfortable language around liberation.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, also a lot of things related to spirituality have been commodified for financial purposes.
Sure. Sure, of
Um,
course. Yeah.
have been Lululemonified, have been like,
Yeah.
there's put a cost on a thing that shouldn't cost anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so I acknowledge that exists. But we
Mhm.
do not have like, if someone was going down the block with a loudspeaker about liberation, that dude's crazy.
Right.
you know, like he's
Right.
nuts.
Right. Mhm.
Um, because this society, this tribe of self, is not about liberation in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
But if someone was like, on Instagram, basically doing the same thing with the loudspeaker, being like, "Yo, I just bought this Bugatti,"
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
we'd be like, "This dude's cool."
Right. Right. Yeah. And isn't that scary?
Which I don't know that that's true that he's cool, but
Yeah.
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 What uh, what is sort of healing in you now actively, I guess, or wanting to be healed, if you want to share?
Yeah. I this past year have taken a really deep walk into plant medicine,
Mm.
and that is it's been so beautiful and very challenging also. Um, my connection to mother nature is very deep, and I find that to be, feel like home, and I feel so held there, and it's so healing to be in nature and to be reminded, it's kind of twofold, right? Reminded how small we are, and then also reminded that we are part of that, right? Not separate from it. We are part of mother nature, not separate from it. So for me, holding myself in those journeys, and understanding when I need to be held in them too has been a big thing for me. I've come to realize that if you're going to invite people into spaces to heal and liberate themselves and free themselves, the secondary part to that is the integration. How are you holding them in the after of that? And I find, and I can even say to myself, I may have been a little lacking when I first started, right? Of how do you hold people in the after? And that's not to say you have to carry them forever, but it is to say that there is a responsibility for us to navigate that and to still create that for people. So that's sort of where I'm stepping into right now. It's like, how can I create integration for myself and for my community in a deeper, more potent way?
I have a meditation teacher who, after any good retreat, will tell people like, "Hey, don't make big decisions right now. Like, I know
One
things seem
lunar cycle.
clear. I know you're like, yep, fuck my job, fuck my
Yep.
relationship, but like,
Give it a
just
beat.
fall back, like,
Yep.
um, because of that integration, yeah, because
Yeah,
we have once the awakening
exactly.
happens, we kind of have to put it into the
Right.
pieces of the world. I've
Right.
been thinking
Into the
about
body.
into the body, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
to the wind, how the wind affects the body, the whole thing.
Hmm.
Uh, I've been thinking about integration a lot. I don't have answers to this. I don't have like really profound thoughts around it. I've been thinking about melting. Uh,
Mm.
so the corny but powerful example is like the caterpillar melts. Like literally, caterpillar's like, "Yo, I'm done being a caterpillar at some point." Um,
Right.
and it melts itself. So it consciously, has its little conscious death, becomes goo. It's pretty wild. And then somehow goo integrates, becomes butterfly. So in a way, I feel far from butterfly. I
Mm.
feel like conscious caterpillar death
Mm.
is where I'm at,
Yeah. Yeah.
or melting. Uh, but then also what gets integrated, what
Hmm.
what really gets
Hmm.
integrated. And again, yeah, I don't have sort of answers to this, but these three images have been really present in my life lately.
Yeah.
um what is the
Yeah.
caterpillar in me?
Right. Right. And like you said, what needs to be integrated and what needs to be left behind? Because I think even in the healing, sometimes there's a tendency to hold on to the wound because we feel safe in victim mode, or we just feel safe in that story and in that identity, right? And so to let it go means the actual, like, okay, now you really are goo. Like there's nothing there, right? It's like it is that next evolution. And I love that you spoke to that, because I really feel that this walk is just a constant series of death and rebirth. Constant, right? You're consciously choosing that detachment of self and story and identity. And that can be a little, we have to give ourselves pause in that. Like we don't need to constantly be running through that evolution. And just like we're talking about now, right, there has to be the space for integration for, okay, how am I taking this, and now it is part of my lived experience. It's not just something that happened to me or that I created, right? It has now actually in my cells, it's causing me to act differently, to think differently, to be different, right? That part is something we can't leave behind.
Yeah. Definitely birth.
Yeah.
It is really taking up a lot of my, not in a bad way, just, yeah, my mental space, my
Mhm.
heart space.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
what can I consciously say? And I
Yeah.
don't know, it's not goodbye either. Yeah, I don't think it's goodbye. Like, I don't think the caterpillar says goodbye when it says, like, okay, caterpillar life was cool. I choose to die and become maybe something. It might not work. Part of also, I think, this incredible sort of caterpillar analogy, reference, metaphor, whatever you want, is caterpillar doesn't know it'll be safe when it's good.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like, there's quite a few
Mm-hmm.
things that can kill this
Okay.
cocoon.
Sure.
Like, I mean,
Sure.
it's completely out of its hands. It's technically safer when it's caterpillar.
Right.
You can
Right.
go left, right, up, down,
Yeah.
hide, but like there's no, it's just the
Yeah.
elements and you
That is so real.
when you're
Yeah.
gooey. And
Yeah.
so do you feel safe enough to melt
Yeah.
into this moment, to surrender to this moment?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think for me, my coming back to my relationship, and I'm still working on the word God. I prefer the word spirit or source, and that's just because of my upbringing. Religion kind of changed the word God for me to have more of a negative connotation than a positive one.
because
But
religion was
as
a part of your life as a child.
a little bit, yeah, my upbringing was a little challenging, and so we moved a lot, and I didn't really have like a sense of stability or home ever. My dad was a bit of a lost soul, and my mom was desiring to give us, something, right? Like she didn't know, she didn't have the tools herself, but church for whatever reason felt like something that I think she thought she could give us, that was like a learning or a safe space. And so we did, we would go to church, and some of them were good, and some, good, whatever that means, good. Some of them were not so good. But I developed, because of one particular incident with our family and the church, I just developed a resentment towards the concept of God and church in general and religion, right? And so it wasn't until my own spiritual walk that I realized a relationship with God is between me and God, not a book. It's not a person behind a podium. It's none of that, right? Can those things support me in my relationship? Sure, if you choose, the path of Christianity in that way, or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many different, Catholicism, Buddhism, whatever. But for me, coming back to my relationship with spirit helped me be safe in the goo, because I didn't feel alone in it, right? It felt like I was being held in that. It felt like that was with purpose, right? That there was a bigger vision coming on the other end of that butterfly that was almost, you know, being crafted for me, right? Like knowing that source and spirit is within me and is supporting me to become what I am meant to become. And I'm not just like in this figured out consciousness of like what my purpose here is, right? That I've been put here for something very specific, and to trust in that and to feel like that's always happening for me. Life is always happening for me instead of to me. Right. And I think that's the challenge, is for, some of us, we can't see or feel that support necessarily all the time. And like I said, religion, kind of getting mixed into it, yeah, it can feel lonely and scary, and that surrender piece is not an easy thing to do.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but can I challenge your for me to me?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me more. For me to me.
When I look back on my life and I see from the lens of, why did that happen to me? Why did that happen to me? I have been able to, or what has supported me, is to say that that happened for me instead of to me, right? Like I feel that that mentality, and this is just for me, has been sort of a victim. It's kept me in a victim mindset of like, okay, why was my dad an alcoholic, and why did he do this, and why did we have to do this, and why, like, instead of seeing like my story, all of that happening to me is why I can stand here now and help other people in their stories and in their path, right? Like, you can't walk the path, you can't help other people walk the path if you haven't walked your own. And so I've I've changed my language in that, to see that everything that happens is actually in support of where I'm going. And I believe that. I believe that it's all taking me to my, like, the best version of myself and my life and my purpose.
Again, not a challenge. Just I like this. I've been thinking about randomness a lot.
Mm,
I've been thinking about chaos and rocks, and
mm.
like, I have a friend who said we're just rocks in space colliding into each other. Sometimes the collision hurts. Sometimes it's beautiful. Sometimes you
Mm,
spend years together.
right.
Sometimes you can be parallel with a rock and not even know it's nearby, and then
Mm,
you crash into each other. Like,
mm,
it's just random. And I was like,
sure.
no, it's not just random. She said it's random.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it can be both. And so I guess my next question is, what if it's not to you, for you? What if it's with you? Or what if it just happens?
What if it just is?
Because it's not two
Yeah.
separate things. When I think of liberation, there's not a thing that happened and then there's you. There's just this.
Mm, mm.
Like, things don't happen and things don't not happen.
Yeah, sure,
It's
sure.
just the soup. Like,
Yep.
it's just emptiness, as the Heart Sutra says, or it's just this,
It's just,
Mahamudra, like,
yeah.
is the term for the great seal. Like, it's
Mm.
just this. But
Yeah.
you want the volume to be lower or more, a little more of this, a little less of that. But if you
Hmm.
took your hands off of it, it would just be this. It would be
Yeah.
complete.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the challenge in that. I like that. It's making me think of, when I was in LA a couple of months ago, a girlfriend of mine, we had like a beautiful Saturday. We did like a little microdose ceremony together, and we watched Gaia TV. And I had never seen the Ram Dass uh, documentary. I know there's a few, but this one in particular I hadn't seen. And
Send it to me.
I
I'd love to know which one.
okay, I will. I want to watch it again because I want to be able to say it right because it comes to me a lot in moments like this. I'm
Go
not
for
going
it.
to say
Just
it
say it.
perfectly
Just
right
say it.
now, but
Say it.
basically the interviewer asks him like if we are a human, a human being trying to reach this, level of spirituality or mindfulness or, that sort of essence of freedom and liberation, yet our humanity will always sort of restrict us in that, right? What is the point? Like, what is the point of ever trying to achieve that when we are in human form? And is that even possible? And he just kind of like smiles. He's like, well, I don't know. What do you think? It's sort of like what you're saying of like, is it just that? Like, right? Is it just the journey and none of it is really significant? None of it's really mundane. Like, it just all is. I think for me, being part of plant medicine ceremonies, anyone who has sat in ceremony knows this. I'm not sure if you have yet or before, but
Yeah, what plants are you talking about?
I've
If
sat
you
with ayahuasca a few times, and the sacred mushroom is like a huge healing tool for me that I have used. I actually just last month I went to the mountains of Mexico and sat with a Mazatec curandera in a private sacred mushroom ceremony, which was
whoa.
yeah. Whoa. I'm like still
Wow.
sort of like coming back.
Wow.
Yeah. So that concept, right? The concept of sitting in ceremony has made me view my life as the ceremony and it has
Mm.
made me view everything as important and sacred and special and deserving of not just looking at it like, well, maybe it just is. I know that that's not the way in which you are saying it, right? I know that there's almost a liberation in that too. For me, I choose to see it all as sacred. I choose to see it all as intentional. And I know that it is in my everyday moments, it's in my everyday life that I'm creating the ceremony of my life.
No, I mean that's it is what I think I'm trying to say. Like it is the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen for us, to us, with us. It is the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one does it better than plenty of people do it better. There's no better or worse. But Thich Nhat Hanh is like
Mm,
you taking a
yeah.
shit is as sacred of a prayer as you praying.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Or what is his poem? I am like I am the refugee girl. I am the person with the gun in their mouth. I am also the gun holder. Like
Yeah.
I'm all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
I am the children starving, and I am the billionaires keeping them starving. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it is the ceremony. I think is
Yeah.
what I. So it's not to us or for us. It's with us. It's just one thing, and we get to liberate this one thing, or we don't.
Yeah. I
And
love
so
that. Thank you for that. I really like that.
hence if we get liberated, like that's what they say, at least, like you liberate others.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of work. um
Oh, I lost you for a second. Okay, here you are.
am I back?
I heard it takes a lot of work.
That's really it. It just takes work to get
Okay.
liberated, to liberate
Yeah.
ourselves, to
Yeah.
make it all the ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think the thing I've come into the most clarity with recently is it's just like the awareness. If we can just cultivate the awareness of all of it, right? It doesn't mean we have to like be consciously in it because it's kind of like what we spoke to earlier, like spirituality can get very heady and like woo woo. And if you don't have fun with it in life, you're going to lose yourself entirely. but we have to, yeah, like the awareness of just our actions, our behaviors, our thoughts, like the world we are creating together, the ceremony we are creating together. Just be aware. How can we be more aware, even more aware? That's a concept that's really like landed for me lately.
Technology.
I don't know.
Hear me? If you can hear me, that's all that matters.
I can hear you.
Right. And now I can see you.
Okay, great. Yeah, technology.
I'm gonna ask you one last question. You do all this space sort of helping women get liberated. Are you yourself there, or are you the performer who holds the space? Like, where's your space? Does that
Where's my?
um
I love this question, and I think healers and just people who guide and hold space don't ask it enough for themselves. I am learning to ask for it in a different way, right? Like it's like an evolution of before it was like my community and my sisterhood, I needed to be held by them in that way. And I still do. There's still such a deep healing that happens in that. And as I evolve and my path evolves, I'm learning to hold myself in it in a new way too. You know, there's a different holding of me that I've stepped into. And I mean, just being in nature, again, like I said earlier, is the most healing thing for me. The minute I put my bare feet in the dirt, I feel like a new person. It's like that's it would be that and again to what we spoke to earlier, the solitude, you know, being able to be in my own energy and just feel like safe in that and held in that is really important for me. Is really, really important for me. Yeah, that would be it.
do you have any questions for me?
Not necessarily a question, but I'm really grateful that a platform like this exists and that it exists from a man, you know, that I feel just like in this last hour there has not been, you know, any ego that you've walked with throughout this and just in witnessing you of what you've created, I'm grateful, you know, that it exists and that you have like accepted that assignment for you to create it and walk in it. And just like from one to another, thank you.
Oh, I appreciate you. I do. Thank you, and thanks for trusting me, chatting with me, and all of the
Of course.
things. Yeah, just I want us all to be liberated. I think there's a lot of. I know I said no more suffering, but talk. But I think there's a lot of suffering uh, that we can participate in the healing and liberation of. And so you're already
Hmm.
doing that, and so I thank you.
Thank you.
Oh wait, tell how to yeah how to find you and meet you and come to your events and hang with you, etc.
Yeah, we are Sacred Sisters on Instagram. And so we have incredible virtual events and in person, and it's really a safe haven. It really, really is. Like I've seen and experienced many women's spaces, and there are so many beautiful ones out there. And I am honored at the one that we have cultivated and what it feels like for women and just what it has become. So we love welcoming, you know, new sisters in and all that comes with doing this work together.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Adios.
Hi, Chris. Thank you.